Good morning and welcome back to COVID Computer Camp. We're in part two of our Donkey Kong lesson, which looks like it's going to stretch out over 3 or possibly even 4 parts. It's a lot of code. So let's get to it and see how much we can do. All right, so here we are. You'll remember that yesterday we got the game all running and we got our guy moving left and right. His costume isn't flipping around the way that we want it to yet. There's still lots to do. We programmed Kong to start grabbing barrels and spawning them. They're invisible right now, so we can't see them. There's lots we could do right now. We have to work on the jumping and climbing ladders code. That is, it's not complicated, just a lot of it to do. And I would rather get the barrels going first because I think that'll give you guys something immediately fun to do. So that's what we're going to work on next. So if everyone can click on the blue barrel, which is the first sprite along the way here. So I'm going to share my starter file with you guys on watching live on YouTube. There we go. And we're ready to start going here. So remember, if you can't keep up with the coding, no problems. Just follow along what I'm doing and try and understand the logic that I'm using to put the program together. You can always go back and look at my finished file and get the code, or watch the recorded version and pause it while you're building, because I move pretty fast here and you might not be able to keep up. But that's not an impediment to you guys learning. You should still be able to watch what I'm doing and learn even if you can't keep up with the code. Okay, so the barrel. We're going to start off with a green flag. Remember, we've got these little blocks here with the color detection in them. Please do not delete these because they're important and it's really difficult to grab the colors again. You guys know probably already about how to use these things. If you've used them before, they're in sensing. There's these touching color blocks and you just click inside the window and then click on the eyedropper and you can grab a color from your game. There's actually 3 different colors inside these girders here, and that's the 3 colors that I've selected inside this blue box here. We're not using them quite yet, but we will be in a couple of minutes, and I just want to make sure that you don't accidentally delete those. Okay, so let's start with our green flag. Nothing much happens when we click on the green flag. Let's make this a little bigger. There we go. All we're going to do is tell it to hide. Now these guys are already hidden. We can show them right now, and you see that there's a little barrel down here right now. So we're just going to hide it. So let's go into our looks menu and we will select hide, which is down towards the bottom here. There we go. Just have had an itchy nose lately. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got the Kong creating clones, right? He's just working away. They're throwing barrels down. They're invisible right now. So let's make them visible again when they show up in the clone. So we're going to go to our control blocks. We're going to go when I start as a clone. That's the instructions that the clones follow. And we'll put a show in there. So let's go looks, show. Okay. Now, Kong is creating clones, but he's creating them down here. Remember, clones always appear on top of the new guy. So on top of the existing clone maker, the existing reference object, right? So the first thing we're going to have to do is move these clones up to their starter position. We can tell the clones to start there, or we can tell the barrels to start in that position. Actually, I think we should do it in the clone, just in case we have to move those barrels later. So I'm going to grab a go to command. And then we're going to actually, I'm just not sure if these numbers are correct. Let's just test this out. So right now there's a go to block that we're going to add, and I'm going to check these numbers. I'm not 100% sure they're right. So we're going to grab go to XY. The X should be -80 and the Y should be 86. Let me just click on that and we'll make our barrel show. And I just want to make sure that our barrel actually moves to the right place. That should be the right place, right? Let's have a look at our costumes for the Donkey Kong and see if it looks like he's grabbing. Yeah, that looks like a good spot for him to be grabbing the barrels from, especially if they're at the front. That should look pretty much correct. Okay, So these numbers are good. We're going to put that under when I start the clone. That'll bring the barrels to their starting position where they're going to start rolling down the hill. Okay, now most of the coding takes place inside some custom blocks here, some functions that we're going to create. So I'm just going to call two functions here. We're not going to fill them up yet. I'm just going to get the blocks into place for them. We created another function yesterday called what was it? It was in the other guy, I guess. There was another function that had to do with Kong throwing the blocks, the first barrel down to the bottom of the screen to ignite the first monster, right?
Throw the barrel down.
Yeah, throw barrel down or something like that, right? I don't know. I think that code must be inside Donkey Kong, right? So we're going to finish coding that later on. All right, so we need two different functions here. We're going to go to My Blocks. We're going to go Make a Block. And we're just going to type the name of the first one, which is Set Barrel Color. I don't know, depending on if you're Canadian or British, you can say spell C-O-L-O-U-R. I don't know if we have any Americans on here, but they always spell color with an O-R. I'm going to use the U. I'm a proud Canadian. There we go, Set Barrel Color, and that will give us a new block here that we can add underneath, Set Barrel Color. And what happens when you click on that is what we're going to put down into this slot here later. I need another one. Okay, so let me explain what Set Barrel Color is. So our barrels actually have a couple of different costumes, right? We have a yellow costume, which is a normal barrel, and then the blue barrel, which comes up much more rarely. The blue barrels are full of oil, and when they crash into the burning oil barrel at the bottom of the screen, they turn into flamey monsters, right? So we don't want those all the time because we don't want the screen filled with flamey monsters, so they just come up very rarely. So the first thing we do is sorry, Ben, mute your mic, please.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, so we're setting barrel color here, and then right underneath that, so that's going to tell whether it's a blue or an orange barrel. And then right underneath that, we're going to do another custom function that's called Start Rolling. And that will actually get our barrel moving. So let's add that right underneath. So as soon as we pick the color, we can start the guy moving. Excellent. And we're going to fill that out in a second as well. So let's actually start. I'm just having a look here. Yeah, so now we're actually going to fill in these two different colored blocks. So let's start with the Define Barrel Color. So I'm going to go up to the Set Barrel Color block here. And let's tell it what to do. So we've got a barrel color variable. I think it's already in here. Barrel color. I've already created that for you. You can see it here. So we're going to grab a set variable command under variables. And we're going to change it to say set barrel color. Now we're going to pick a random number from 1 to 10. Basically, we want to basically say have a 1 in 10 chance of getting a blue barrel. So I'm going to go set barrel color to pick a random number from 1 to 10. I found that under operators. Pick a random number from 1 to 10. There we go. I dropped it into the hole here. Now we're gonna tell it if the barrel number is 1, that it should make it a blue barrel, and otherwise we're gonna just make it an ordinary barrel. So we can use an if-else statement to do that. Anytime we're faced with two different options and we have to pick one of them, an if-else option really works nicely. So I'm gonna put a less than sign in here. I'm gonna go to my operators and I'm gonna say less than, which is the arrow pointing to the left. So if barrel color is less than 2, which means equal to 1, then we're going to change it to blue. So I need something that says barrel colors. I'm going to go to variables and grab a little bubble here that says barrel color. I've told this to you a million times, but you cannot type stuff in, like I can't type barrel color in here. It will not understand that. You have to go find the bubble inside variables and put it inside that slot. So if I say if barrel color is less than 2, we could say equal to 1, of course, but it's good practice as a coder to always say less than 2 rather than equal to 1, or less than 1 rather than equal to 0, because sometimes your numbers can go into negatives if something weird happens, and you don't want, when your hit points are down to -1, you still want to die, for example, right? You don't want um, to have it ignore the fact that you died just because your number went to less than 0. So we always try to use less than rather than equal to in coding this kind of stuff. Okay, so if barrel color is less than 2, then switch costume. We're going to go to our looks menu. We're going to switch costume to barrel 2, which is our blue barrel. Otherwise, the else we're gonna leave it at barrel 1. Okay, so that'll set our new barrels. Let's test it out here and see if our I should probably add a go to front here as well with these guys because they're showing up behind the Donkey Kong right now. So just to be safe here, I'm going to add a go to front here right after the green flag. Okay, so let's test the game out now. And so, yeah, he makes his first barrel. You can't really see it too well here, but see, here's a blue barrel. Here's an orange barrel. Here's another arrow, another one. Yes, Abby.
There's no sound.
Yeah, well, we haven't added any sound yet, buddy. There's nothing in. Well, do you not hear the da 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 da?
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that.
You didn't hear any of that. Um, all right. I mean, if I can try restarting my stream in Discord. Let me just try that real quick, guys.
Mr. T, I'm pretty sure that the sound doesn't work. I don't think it goes through on Discord.
It should.
I think there's a Mr. T, I think there's a little box that you can check off when you're starting your stream. I think it's like microphone from computer or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna try restarting my stream right now just to make sure that it's all good. So let's go on stage in the stream. But no, there's no option to click or anything here. It's just asking me. Oh, yeah, there's no option button here for sound. But I do know that if I use the proper application, if I stream a Chrome window, the sound should work. So I'm streaming again, guys. Can you hear the sound now? Sorry, you said yes, you can?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so that's good. We're good for now. All right, so let's get back into this. I'll have to cut this out of the finished video. Okay, so we're ready to keep moving here. We've got it switching to the proper barrel, and you can see Kong is busily setting up barrels here. Most of them are orange, but every once in a while we get a blue one. I'm not seeing a blue one right now. It's random, right? So we could be waiting here a long time. I'm not going to bother waiting. We did see one blue one earlier. I'm going to leave that running right now. If you guys notice a blue barrel, you'll see that it is in fact working. Okay, so now we want to do the start rolling part. So I'm going to add some stuff to the start rolling. This is quite a long chunk of code here. So, but we're going to blast through this as quick as we can. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we have a variable called barrel speed. It's going to be 2 for most of the time, but every once in a while when we're going down a barrel, we're changing it back to 0 again because 0 is our horizontal speed. So when our barrels are rolling down a hill, of course, we're not going to want to have them moving horizontally while they do that. Or when they're going down a ladder, sorry, is the real way we should be saying that. Okay, so let's set that variable. We'll go to our variables. We'll go set barrel speed to 2. Then we need a forever. So let's go grab a forever loop. Control forever. And inside there, now here's what we're going to start checking to see if our barrel is underneath a ladder. So what we're going to do is basically pop it down. Just to be safe, Jeffrey programmed this to pop down 20 pixels basically. But as soon as it appears on the screen, every time it moves, it's going to go down, check and see if it's touching blue. And if it's not, it'll go back up again. And even if it is, it'll go back up again. It'll happen so fast that you won't even see it, just like we did with Mario as well. So anytime we're working with stuff like this where we're detecting colors that are in front of your object or down below it, we do this probing method, and it seems to work very well. And the nice thing is you can't see your barrel actually popping down. It happens so quickly that to your mind it's just rolling down the hill and it doesn't realize that you're doing that. Okay, so let's get going here. So we're going to change our Y. We're going to pop it down to probe underneath here. So I'm going to go to motion. let me save my file right now. Yeah, Maya's bugging me to save my file. Do you guys have the link? Let me just quickly paste that in one more time. All right, you should be good now, though you're watching on YouTube. All right, so next. So what I was saying, we're going to change our y. So we're going to grab a change y, which is right down here. Change y by -20. We're going to drop that barrel down 20 pixels and search for ladders. So let's do an if statement in here. Control if, and we'll pop it right underneath the change y. So we're going to check and see. Okay, so what we're doing next is deciding if there is a barrel, we have to decide whether it's going to, if there is a ladder under us, we have to decide whether the barrel is actually going to go down or not. You can see my guy is actually continuing to drop now. He as soon as the new barrel is formed, it goes right to the bottom of the screen. That's what this change y by 20 is going to do. Now that's not going to last because pretty soon we're going to pop it back up 20, and that's not going to keep happening as the game progresses here. So so if in fact our barrel is on top of a ladder, we have to tell it that every once in a while it can go down. Remember in Donkey Kong, sometimes the barrels ignore the ladders and sometimes they go down them. So we're gonna, they spend 3 or 4 or 5 turns on top of the ladder before they move over because they're only moving at 2 pixels at a time. So imagine the ladder is like 15 or 16 pixels across. That's 6 or 7 different opportunities the barrel has to fall. So we have to pick a pretty big number. I'm going to pick a random number from 1 to 30 here. And so it's only going to fall down once every 30 opportunities. And that will make it roughly go down a ladder maybe 1 in every 3 times it passes over a ladder, basically. That's around the right stats anyway. So, okay, so we're going to grab a random number here. So, oh, we need an equal sign first. So let's go to our operators. And this is one of these times when I don't follow my own advice here. We're just going to say if it's equal to 1. And what we're going to put in here is a random number. So I'm going to go pick random from 1 to 30. So if a random number that we pick is equal to 1, there's really no reason we couldn't have done that in the earlier code as well, use an equal sign there, because we're never going to get a negative number here, right? But that was the way it was programmed, and we're just trying to teach you guys some good habits. Okay, so now the first thing we want to do is, so this is okay, this is going to make more sense as we go along here, guys, because we're actually telling it what to do here if it detects a ladder underneath it, and it picks that random number. Yeah. So it's going to pick a number from 1 to 30. If it picks a 1, then it's going to go down the hill. So let's go set our barrel speed. We're going to go to our variables. We'll go set barrel speed to 0. That means we're going to stop moving forward if we go down. Now, next block we're going to need is a repeat until. You'll find that in control. We don't use these very often. So this is a loop that the thing's going to get stuck in. So basically, before we start moving across, we're going to check and see if there's a ladder, start moving down the ladder, keep moving down the ladder until we're totally down the ladder, and then we're going to resume our movement across the board, basically. So we have to take care of those optional things before we process the regular movement. And that's the way this usually works in the code, right? We have to, if something happens 99% of the time, we want that to happen in the code after the stuff that happens every once in a while. And so that's why we're coding the falling barrels first here. Okay, so we have a repeat until, and we're going to do this twice. We actually need 2 repeat untils. Let's put the second one in right now just to make sure they're in the right place. So there's one here and then one below it as well. So what we're going to do is repeat until we're going to have the barrel drop until it's no longer touching. So just follow my mouse cursor here. So let's say we're moving over to this particular spot here. We've probed down. We found out there was blue underneath us. Now we need to keep falling down until we're past this girder. And it's going to keep doing that until it no longer detects that girder. Then the next repeat until is going to go, and it's going to keep falling until it touches the next girder, basically. And that's why we need 2 repeat untils here. So the first repeat until is going to be using that color block that we have from earlier. Remember, we're going to grab it by the second OR statement, otherwise it will fall apart on you. Let's bring it down the screen here. And let's pop it into the hole there. We need this twice, actually. So before I put it into the hole, let's just duplicate it. Again, I'm moving my cursor over the second OR to make a copy. All right, now we're going to drop that into the hole. It's a little tricky. So remember, it's the left-hand corner of this triangle that you want to touch the little indentation there. You'll know you're in the right spot when it glows white. Then let go, and that pops into the place. And we'll do that with the second one. We'll put it into the second repeat until. There we go. Now, let me stop my file here. We got a lot of complicated stuff going on inside here, and it's slowing my program down. Okay, so we're going to change our Y. So, right now we're going to move it down, right? So let's go change our Y coordinate. We're going to go change Y by -2. So it's still moving at a speed of 2, but it's moving downwards in the Y direction now. It's going to keep moving until it's going to keep looping around here until it's no longer touching a girder. And then it's going to go to the next loop, which is, well, we're not touching a girder. Keep going down again until you're touching the girder again. So it's identical. It's change Y by -2 again. And that will take us down to the very point where we're touching the next girder. And then after that, we can resume our movement again. So do we have an if statement inside an if statement here? No. Okay, so I made a little mistake here, guys. We're going to have to go back one step. Hold it. Yeah, hold it. This is complicated because there's one if statement inside another if statement. Change Y by... Okay, so let's grab... I'm going to shrink this a little bit so I can move some stuff around. We have to dismantle this a little bit. We're going to do this a couple of times today because we need some very complex structures here where one if statement is inside another if statement. So I actually need an if-else here that is wrapping around the other if. So I'm going to grab this if statement, pull it out, and then I'm going to put an if-else statement inside this. Right underneath change Y by -20, I'm going to add an if-else. And that one is going to be the touching color blue, which is right here. Okay, so this is actually making more sense. So everything that's happening here is going to happen only if we're touching the ladder, right? Okay, this makes a lot more sense now. This if-else statement kind of clarifies everything. So we're going to probe down, check for the color, and if the color is blue, what we find down below us is a ladder, we're going to pop all of this stuff back into the if statement. So now we have 2 nested if statements. So if there's a ladder below us, then we start moving the barrel down. Otherwise, we just keep moving horizontally, and that's the part that happens in the else statement. Hope that makes sense to you guys. I've been talking here for quite a bit. I'm going to take a break and talk to my audience on YouTube, and we'll come back and we'll finish what's inside that else statement. And it looks like everything else is good right now. Okay, we took a little brief pause there to have a look at the code, and Zach, who is the originator of this game, remember I told you yesterday that this project was inspired by Frida, who suggested on Flipgrid that we do this, but it was also inspired by Zach, who sat down with his dad and put this game together, and he noticed an error in my code. So let's go and fix that before we do anything else wrong. This is super complicated code, guys, and so I will not be surprised if some of you guys get this nesting and stuff out of place. There's some areas here where we have 6 or 7 blocks nested inside each other, and if you get the order wrong, everything will mess up. So if you have trouble with this, don't worry. I'm going to keep saving my file here, and you'll always be able to look at my work and compare it to that. Okay, so the error, let's go back here, is in this first part of the code here, the first repeat until loop. It's supposed to be moving until it's no longer touching these colors, right? Right now it's repeating until it's touching the color, which means it's going to break out of that loop right away. What we need to do is pull all of this stuff out of here and put a not in. We're going to go grab a not from right here in our operators, and we'll pop that into the slot and then put this complicated code inside the not. So Zach, you're my man today. Thank you so much for helping me out with that. I was really a little bit confused. Oh, look, I did some playing around and showed people my camera, and now it looks like it's out of alignment a little bit. So let me just shift everything over a bit. There, that's looking better. Okay, I think we're ready to keep going here. So outside of that, okay, so inside the else statement now, so all of this stuff is basically controlling how we're going to move down the ladders if we encounter one. Now inside the else statement is everything that's going to happen if we, hold it. No. Okay, so all that goes inside this, there's only one thing that goes inside this else statement. And so right here, we're moving our y back up again. No, at the end of all of this, we move our y back up again. So we're probing, and then we're moving down again, and then the else is change your, oh yeah, okay. So this is where I got confused. So I remember that in the if and the else, we also have to move ourselves back up again after probing. So we need two occasions here of the change y. I'm sorry, guys. This is like just there's so much code here, and it just gets really difficult to keep track of it. So we're changing our y by -20. We're going down and probing, and then we have to bring it back up again. We have to do it twice. If we find a ladder, we still have to probe up, go back upwards after our probe. And otherwise, if we don't find a ladder, we still have to make it go up as well. So I'm going to put this change y by 20, which is going to undo our probe, and I'll put it inside the else. But I also need to take the same block and put it in above if touching color blue, which I don't even have yet. Okay, so we need a second if statement here. And this is where, oh no, I have the touching color blue. So if touching color blue, change y by 20. I'm going to put that right. So is everyone seeing what I'm doing? So I've got an if statement inside an if statement here. So inside the first if statement, right underneath if touching color blue, I'm going to add change y by 20. So it's going to detect if we're on a ladder, it's going to move it back to its starting position, and then it's going to start moving down the ladder. If it doesn't detect a ladder, it's just going to go back to its starting position, and the code will exit here, and it will continue rolling. And so right underneath this else statement is where we're going to do the rolling code, and that's what we have to do next, okay? So now the next thing we need, we're going to construct some stuff and shove it right underneath here. So let's do our next block here, which is change X by barrel speed. So this is where our guy is actually going to roll across the screen here. So I'm going to go change X, which is in our motion blocks. And inside that, for the speed, we're going to tell it to move by whatever the barrel speed is. So we're going to go to our variables. We're going to go grab the one that says barrel speed, and we'll put that in there. So now it's changing its movement by the barrel speed. Now we need to so we're saying if not touching those colors again. Okay, so here is where we're going to make sure that we're actually, so that, because we're rolling horizontally, but we need to go down and follow the pathway that's at a little bit of an angle here. So every time it starts rolling and it's no longer touching the girder, we're going to pop it down by 2 more pixels again, basically, and that's what we're doing next, okay? So I'm going to grab an if statement. Yeah, it's not an if else, there's no more if else's in here. Peter, I want you to listen to this. Don't mock me. All right, if not touching those colors. So we need this touching colors thing one more time. I've used up all the one that I have here, so I'm going to make another duplicate of it. I'm going to move my mouse over the second OR. I'm going to go duplicate, and I'm going to pop that into that hole. And this is a not again, so we need a not in there, sorry. So let's put a not in first. So if not touching those colors, so if we're not touching a girder, then move down by 2 pixels. We're going to change our Y by -2, and that will bring us down to touch the girders again. Now we need another if statement underneath there. We're going to go if under our control blocks. If, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit now that we don't need to see those big wide blocks anymore. Now the only other, actually let me play it from here. I think this should start working. This should be working now. There's just a couple more things we have to add that'll make it cooler. But let me click the green flag and let's see what happens here. Let's test this out and see if our barrels are rolling. There we go. Our barrel's rolling. The problem is it keeps going right. Oh, this one actually went down a ladder. Beautiful. Let's see if the next one doesn't. Yes. So this is working properly. And you can see that our barrels that don't go down the ladder are getting stuck on the right side of the screen. And that's the part we're going to fix next, is how to make those guys bounce when they hit the edge of the screen. So we have two blocks here called right wall and left wall, and those ones are just basically black blocks here. You can't really see them because they're visible, but they're not, because we have to collide on them, but they're black just like the background, so we can't actually see them. So we're going to say that when we collide with those, we're going to bounce and start moving in the other direction, basically, and that's the way that works. So if touching right wall is what we need here, so let's go sensing, touching right wall. We're going to change our barrel speed to a -2, which means it's going to start, instead of moving to the right, it's going to move to the left now. So let's go set barrel speed, not change it, set barrel speed to -2. That'll get it moving in the opposite direction. Now we're just going to change it to see what happens when it hits the left wall. So we're just going to make a duplicate of this whole if statement. I'm going to right click, duplicate, and I'm going to say if touching left wall, we're going to set our barrel speed back to 2. And one more thing before we test out our program again, I'm going to tell our barrel to start spinning. So I'm going to get it to rotate. We're going to go to our motion blocks and tell it to turn. And we're going to get it, let me save my file here. So I'm going to turn based on the barrel speed. We want it to stop turning if the barrel speed is 0. So I need a multiplication sign in here. This will make a bit more sense in a second. I'm going to grab a multiplication sign, which is the little star button here under the green ones. There we go. And I'm going to say if, so turn barrel speed times 5. So if our barrel speed is 2, that means it's going to turn 10 degrees at a time, basically. So let's go grab a bubble that says barrel speed. There we go. Barrel speed times 5. Excellent. Okay, so now our guy should be working properly. Let's maximize our screen and have a look. There we go. Our barrel's rolling. And that one goes down and it stops. Another one went down and stopped. Another went down and stopped. And this one, okay, so I was starting to be concerned that our code wasn't working properly. It looks like way too many of these guys are going down the ladder, eh? There's something going on here. And why are our barrels not moving when they're, so there's probably something that I'm missing here. I'm going to stop and talk to my audience and see if we can figure out this little bug, and I'll get right back to it. All right, we're back. We found that little error in the code that was making our barrels not move properly. Let's show it to you right now. So I'm in the part of the code here where it says if I pick a random number from 1 to 30, then we change our barrel speed. We set our barrel speed to 0. We're not actually setting it to 0. We want it to keep rolling, but we want it to roll depending on what direction it's rolling. We want it to keep rolling left or keep rolling right. And the way we do that is by adding a minus sign into here and saying 0 minus barrel speed. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense to you guys, but imagine my barrel speed is 2. So if my barrel speed is 2 and I go to 0 minus barrel speed, that will actually change it to the opposite direction. It'll go -2. So 0 minus 2 is -2. But if my speed is already -2, if I'm moving right to the left, then I go 0 minus -2. This is something you don't get into in math until probably grade 7, I think. But basically, a negative number minus a negative number is a positive number, which will get you back into the positive direction again. So 0 minus minus 2 is plus 2, which will get us moving to the right again. Let's test that out, and I'll just prove to you guys that this in fact works. So let's maximize our screen. And there we go. Our first barrel's rolling. And it bounces off the wall. And now we need one to go down a ladder. Let's see which one goes down a ladder. We had a bunch of them going down a ladder before, and now none of them. Oh, there goes one. And you can see that it continues moving in the proper direction. When it gets to a ladder in the opposite direction, it will flip in the opposite way, like that guy there, for example, started moving right, despite the fact he was moving left. Okay, so that's working beautifully. We're...
Once they reach the end, they start going back again.
Yes, because they touch the left wall, right? So we're going to put some other code in there that tells them. We can do that right now, actually. So we got a couple more things to clean up here. Remember that in code, everything keeps happening until you tell it to stop, and everything that you haven't told to do won't happen, right? So it isn't our imagination that's gonna make this last barrel disappear when it gets to the end. We have to actually tell it, right? So let's do a little bit of code right now that solves that problem. So we're going to grab, so we're done with this big, huge block of code right now. I need to grab another piece of code here that says when I start as a clone. So let's grab that. It's under control. When I start as a clone, I'll blow that up a bit. Now let's grab a forever. And inside there, we're adding an if statement. We're going to, let me save my file in case you guys need some help. I'm going to grab an if statement here. So we need two different if statements here. One of the if statements is going to be if we're touching an oil barrel. And so with the oil barrel at the bottom of the screen, that's what's going to ignite us into a flame monster. We're not going to implement that till the very end of the project, though, so you're not going to be able to see it yet. And the other one is going to be if we're touching the left wall. Basically, we're going to say if you're down here and the barrel managed to touch this wall, then we're going to delete it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, and we're going to grab an and sign. We need to test for two things, right? We need to test, am I touching the wall? And am I down low enough on the screen that I'm on this bottom girder? So I'm going to grab touching left wall, which is under the sensing block here. We'll grab this one here that says touching mouse pointer and pop it in the first hole. I'll change it to say touching left wall. Now, and we're also going to say if our Y position, if we're low enough on the screen that we're on the lowest girder. So I'm going to grab a less than sign out of my operators, pop it into the hole here, and I'm going to say if my Y position is less than minus 140. Now, where do I find Y position? That little bubble is inside our motion blocks because that's an attribute that everything has, an X and a Y position. So we'll grab a bubble that says Y position. It's right at the bottom of our motion blocks. If our Y position is less than 140, then we'll just delete this clone. We'll go to control here and delete this clone, and that should fix the problem that was so troubling Abby. All right, let's try it out here. We're gonna have to wait for the barrel to actually touch the bottom here, and you should see them deleting themselves. So that the first guy goes down the ladder. And he goes down the second ladder. What are the odds? What are the chances? Wow, everyone's going down ladders now all of a sudden. All right, and so our guy's about to touch the left side here. You notice he's not, okay, and he's gonna delete. Boom, gone, gone, gone. And it kind of looks like they're rolling off the girder a little bit, right? Which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, beautiful. So that part's good. Now, as I said, the last part inside the if statement here isn't going to work until the last day when we get our fireball working. But let's go ahead and finish coding that before we forget. So we'll grab, inside this first if statement, we'll say if touching oil. So I need to go to my sensing blocks, and we'll say touching oil. Then we're going to say if you're an oil barrel, which, so we need a, yeah, actually I'm going to, yeah, okay, let's do it the way that Jeffrey coded this, or this might be the way that Zach coded it actually. So I'm going to put another if statement inside the first if statement, and I'm going to say if costume number equals 2, so I'll grab an equal sign. Now, costume number we find under the looks menu is another bubble that belongs to all our characters here. Costume number is equal to 2. That means you're an oil barrel. Then we can create a clone of our fireball. So we're going to go under our control blocks here, go create clone of fireball. Now the fireball will have its own instructions on what to do when it's created. And then outside this loop here, even if, yeah, so right outside the first if statement, but inside the second one, we're going to go delete this clone. And that will get rid of our blue barrel after he creates a clone of him, of the fireball. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother testing this right now. I'm sure I did it properly. Let me save my file. That is what's going to make our fireball come to life. We're more or less done. Let me see what else there is in the barrel. There's actually almost nothing left in the barrel. So let's get the barrel totally finished before we log off for the day here. We just have a couple of little tiny pieces of code here. Yeah, we need to, okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the down barrel, which is the barrel that that Donkey Kong throws down at the beginning, that hits the oil barrel and ends up creating the first fire monster. So this happens if you watch the arcade game and a playthrough of that, you'll see that works. So let's go when I receive create down barrel. So let's go to our events blocks. We're going to go to when I receive. And here it is, program down barrel. That's the one I was looking for. So we have the gorilla programming that barrel or sending that barrel down, but now it's going to get received by the blue barrel and it's going to do what it needs to do. So let's go to our looks menu. We'll make sure that it's a blue barrel now. We're going to switch to costume 2, switch costume to barrel 2. We'll set our speed to 2. So let's go to our variables. We'll go set barrel speed to 0. We don't want it rolling. We just want it to fly somewhere. Then we're just going to glide it to the proper location. So we're going to go to our motion blocks. We'll grab a glide to XY coordinates position here. Glide 3 seconds. 2, I'm going to give you the numbers now. It's -80 and -160, which is the location of the blue fire barrel. And then we set the barrel speed back to -2 so that it keeps rolling off the screen until it disappears, I guess. So after it gets lit on fire, well, I thought we should delete it there actually, but this code is set up, and I think that might be the way that ordinary Donkey Kong does it. So let's stick with the code that's here on my sheet here. I might actually want to, if I was coding this, I might have deleted it at that point. But let's go set barrel speed to -2, and that'll get it rolling again. Okay, let's test that out and see if it's working. Oh, yeah, let's do that one more time. Green flag. Let's see if he throws that barrel down. There he goes. He throws the first barrel down. It starts rolling. Oh yeah, of course, that's why we need it to not be deleted, because it hasn't hit the oil barrel yet. Then it deletes itself. And then he starts rolling the rest of the way. So our barrels are looking pretty good. Just 2 more quick pieces of code before we go here. Let's tell it when I win the game. So we'll go to events and say when I receive win. I don't have a win in here yet. So let's go new message and I'll go win. We're going to delete all of the barrels on the screen here. So let's just go delete this clone. And this is the only time when you don't need a when I receive as a clone to program a clone, is when you receive a message. So you can use that to talk to clones. Everything else, like if you have it under a green flag, it will not talk to the clone. It'll only talk to the master one. And we're going to do the same thing for when the game's over as well. So when I receive a message that says dead or game over, let's go game over. Oh, actually, we'll say dead. It's not game over. It's every time I die, basically, right? So even before the game's over, when I receive dead, we're going to delete the clone as well. Now, those messages aren't active, so nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to bother testing this. So I think we're good to go here. So we're totally done the barrel now. When we get back in our next session, what we're going to do is go back to the Mario. There's a ton more code to get Mario climbing ladders, changing costumes, bouncing around the screen, jumping and stuff like that. So that's going to take up a whole lot of time. I think we're going to do 2 more sessions of this, frankly, before we get it done. So those of you who are eager to play Mario at home or to play Donkey Kong at home, you're going to have to hold on a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm going to wish the rest of you a really good weekend. And well, some of you are seeing this on Monday, of course. Timing is so complicated with this live streaming. Okay, and so I'm going to see you guys next time anyway. Have a